Hello, welcome to American Baker in Germany. I'm Michelle, and today we are continuing our Baking Basics series by learning how to stack a multi-tiered cake. Let's get started.
We're going to start working on the top tier. This is the pan I baked the cake from the top tier with, and I need a cake board for the top tier. A cake board will distribute the weight of the top tier and give it more stability, so your cake will hold up and won't cause the lower tier to collapse. I have seen others buy their cake boards, but I've never done that. I make my own using cardboard from a package I received and cut up, recycling at its best. I use the outside of my springform pan that is closed, and I trace along the inside of the pan with a pen to mark the cake board to be the exact size that I need. The pen ink does not touch the pan, so it doesn't corrupt my pan, but you can wash it afterwards. I then cut out the cardboard circle with a pair of scissors. Now cardboard by itself on the cake and buttercream would get soft, and then we'd have cardboard in our cake, and we don't want that. So I cover the cardboard in aluminum foil to make it food safe. I wrap the foil around the cake board in a square first. Then fold down the corners. And then again to make it more rounded. It doesn't have to be perfect because it shouldn't be seen on the outside of the cake at all. Next, I stack my cake tier. I stick down the cake with a smear of buttercream on the cake board. I fill my cake and add the next layer. Off camera, I crumb coat the cake, chill it, frost it again, and cover it in fondant. This layer is a cheetah pattern, but you can cover it in any color or pattern you want, or even leave it covered in buttercream, whatever works for your cake design. The bottom tier will be on a larger cake board, larger than the cake itself, because this will be your presentation board and should look pretty if you possibly can, and most importantly be fairly sturdy so it can hold the weight of the cake. This particular cake board is covered in craft paper, which is not food safe, so I take the time to cover it in plastic wrap to make it food safe. I tape the plastic wrap onto the back to secure it and make it as tight as possible. Now I'm using some non-slip mat to keep my cake board from moving around on the turntable. I place down my large cake board, I smear a bit of buttercream onto the board, and place down my cake layer. I fill the cake with my buttercream and place on my second layer. Off camera, I crumb coat, chill, frost the cake once more, and cover it in pink fondant. If you need help with these steps, check out my Baking Basics playlist. Now on to the most interesting step. Let's put them both together. If I just threw the top tier onto the bottom, it could cause the bottom layer to collapse. So to prevent that, I use cake dowels. These are actually not cake dowels technically, they are shashlik skewers. So they are still made to be used on food. If you are making a very tall cake, then I would suggest something thicker, but these work perfectly well for up to a 3-tiered cake. This one is 2-tiered, so they're perfectly adequate. I press the skewer into the cake blunt end first, and mark the skewer with the knife at the point I want to cut it. It should be just flush with the top of the bottom tier. I use kitchen scissors to cut it where I marked it, and I use the same piece of skewer to measure how long to cut the other lengths of skewer. I cut around 7 or 8 pieces of skewer. I always start in the center to make sure there is a skewer there. Then I place them around the center in a circular formation. This will allow the weight of the top tier to be carried by the skewers and not the cake itself. I used my fondant smoother to press the skewers firmly into the cake. My skewers were just a tiny bit over the top of the cake, so I filled in the gap with a touch of buttercream. Finally, I place my top tier onto the cake. To place it onto the bottom tier, I picked it up by the board and carefully dropped it the last centimeter to get my fingers out of the way. You can adjust the position at this point if it's not quite where you want it. The cake board under the top tier distributed the weight onto the skewers, so it was perfectly secure and stable. I was even able to transport it stacked, and it reached its destination in one piece. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial today. Subscribe for more baking tutorials, and we'll see you again next time.